I moved from Arkansas to Maryland, and my family has been harassing me for years, threatening me to come back and support them. I never thought I'd have to write something like this. Moving was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to build a better life away from the chaos and drama I left behind. But what I didn't expect was that my family would follow me across state lines and make my life a living nightmare for years. Leaving Arkansas. Growing up in Arkansas, family was everything, or so I thought. But over time, the support turned into control, the love into expectation. I was the one who was supposed to help out, send money, fix problems, and keep everyone happy. It got exhausting. So, when I got an opportunity to move to Maryland for work, I jumped on it. I told myself this was my chance to be independent, to breathe, to live for myself for once. The harassment begins. At first, the calls were frequent but reasonable. How are you? When are you coming home? But soon, they turned into demands. You owe us. You can't just leave your family behind. We need your help. Messages flooded in from relatives I barely spoke to before. Friends of friends. People who knew where I lived. They showed up at my apartment once or twice, unannounced. Threats started creeping in. If you don't come back, you'll regret it. You think you're better than us, but we own you. Years of pressure. It didn't stop. For years, I was caught between trying to build a life and trying to escape the shadows of my past. Every new job, every relationship, every quiet moment was invaded by family drama. They guilt-tripped me, harassed me, and made it clear I was only welcome if I gave them what they wanted. The breaking point. Eventually, I had to make a choice: keep fighting to stay free or give in and go back to a life where I was constantly drained, controlled, and threatened. I chose freedom. I blocked numbers, changed routines, and found legal help when things got too dangerous. What I learned. Sometimes, family isn't the safe place you think it is. Sometimes, walking away is the only way to survive. If you're out there feeling trapped by people who claim to love you but only want to control you, know that you're not alone. And it's okay to choose yourself. The long shadow of family. Leaving behind more than a state. When I first landed in Maryland, I felt a strange mix of excitement and guilt. Excitement because it was a fresh start, a new chapter one desperately needed. Guilt because I was leaving behind my family, the same family that seemed to demand everything from me. Growing up in Arkansas, family wasn't just about love, it was a web of expectations, obligations, and unspoken rules. I was the go-to person for money, favors, and emotional support. Saying no was never an option. The first signs of trouble. At first, the messages and calls were manageable. Hey, how's the new place? Are you settling in okay? Even visits, a cousin showing up to check in, felt, on the surface, like caring gestures. But very quickly, the tone shifted. One evening, as I was settling into my apartment, my phone buzzed non-stop. You need to come home. We're struggling, and you're the only one who can help. Don't forget where you came from. The messages weren't just from my immediate family anymore. Distant relatives, friends of friends, even acquaintances who somehow got my contact information started reaching out, demanding, pressuring, invading. The threats begin. It wasn't long before the veiled threats started. One message said, "You think you're better than us now? We'll remind you what family really means." Another time, someone knocked on my door late at night. When I looked through the peephole, no one was there, but I found a note slipped under the door. Come back or else. I started to realize this wasn't just guilt or homesickness, it was control. A desperate attempt to pull me back into a life I was trying to escape. The psychological toll. Every day became a balancing act, trying to maintain my new life while dodging the shadows of my past. I was exhausted, anxious, and constantly looking over my shoulder. Friends noticed. "You're always on edge," they said. "Why don't you block them?" I tried. But new numbers appeared. Social media messages. Emails. Even my work started getting calls, people pretending to be family, trying to find out my whereabouts. The breaking point. After years of this, something inside me snapped. I remember one night vividly. I'd just come home from work, drained and emotionally empty. My phone lit up with dozens of texts and calls. One was from my own uncle. "You owe us. Don't forget who helped you get where you are." That was it. I blocked every number I could, changed my phone, and started ignoring all family contact. I even consulted a lawyer about restraining orders because some of the messages felt threatening enough to warrant legal protection. Reclaiming my life. It wasn't easy. Cutting ties felt like cutting off a part of myself. The guilt was overwhelming. I kept asking, am I wrong for wanting to live my own life? But slowly, the harassment faded. With the legal steps I took, the support of friends, and my own resolve, I began to rebuild a life that was truly mine. I got a better job. Made new friends. Started to feel safe again. Reflection: family isn't always what you think. I still think about those years. The years I spent running, hiding, and defending myself from the people who were supposed to be my family. It hurts, a lot. But I've learned something important. Sometimes, family isn't the people who share your blood. It's the people who respect your choices, support your dreams, and let you be yourself. If you're dealing with toxic family pressure, know you're not alone. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to put your well-being first. The battle within. Haunted by memories. Even after blocking numbers and changing phones, the memories of that life kept creeping back. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I'd hear my mother's voice in my head, the way she used to call me, her rock, the silent sacrifices she made so I could chase a better life. I questioned myself constantly. Was I abandoning them? Was I selfish? The guilt was suffocating, but the fear of going back to that controlling environment was even stronger. A visit that shattered me. One summer, despite all the threats and warnings, I decided to visit Arkansas. I thought maybe face-to-face conversation could heal some wounds. But the visit only confirmed the distance I'd created. Relatives pulled me aside, telling me I was selfish, forgetting my roots, and breaking the family. One night, I overheard my own aunt telling someone, "He thinks he's too good for us now." The words cut deeper than any threat. It was clear, my fight for freedom had turned into a war against their perception of loyalty. The support that saved me. In Maryland, I found people who became my real family, friends who listened without judgment, who encouraged me to stand my ground. A therapist helped me untangle the complicated emotions of love, loyalty, and pain. I learned it's okay to love someone and still protect myself from them. Standing my ground. The toughest moments were when I felt like giving up, answering the calls, sending the money, returning to the old patterns just to keep peace. But I knew that peace would never come without my freedom. Every no was a victory, every blocked call a step toward reclaiming my life. Looking forward. Now, years later, I live a life that is mine. The scars remain, but so does the strength I gained from surviving the storm. Family will always be complicated. But I've learned to choose peace over obligation and health over control. The long road to freedom. The weight of expectations. Growing up in Arkansas, family was like a web, tight-knit but suffocating. I was expected to be the one who sacrificed everything, the good son, who would always come through when anyone needed help. The phone calls started when I was barely old enough to support myself. "You're the only one who can fix this. Don't forget where you come from." Family always helps family. At first, I answered every call, every message, every plea. I sent money when I could. I made excuses to my friends and co-workers when I had to disappear for family emergencies that weren't really emergencies but demands. I thought it was love. I thought it was duty. The move, a glimmer of hope. When the job opportunity in Maryland came, it felt like a lifeline. A chance to finally breathe without the constant pressure. I remember packing my bags with a mix of hope and fear. Leaving meant freedom, but it also meant walking away from the people I was supposed to care about. The first weeks in Maryland were surreal. Quiet. Peaceful. I could finally think without interruption. The storm returns. But the silence didn't last. The calls started coming again. At first, polite. Then desperate. Then angry. One day, I found a voicemail from my mother, her voice trembling. "We need you here. Things are falling apart. Please, don't abandon us." Another call from my cousin. "You owe us, man. Don't forget that." The harassment grew worse, text messages at all hours, strangers knocking on my door, threats masked as family advice. The constant barrage drained me. I became anxious, hypervigilant, always waiting for the next call or knock. My work suffered. My friendship strained. I felt trapped between love and self-preservation. Was I wrong to want my own life? Was I a bad son? The guilt was crushing. The breaking point. It all came to a head one night when someone left a note on my car windshield. "Come back or else." That, or else, echoed in my mind like a drumbeat I couldn't escape. I realized I couldn't live like this anymore. I reached out to a counselor. I got a new phone number. I changed my routines. Finding support. Therapy helped me see the toxic cycle for what it was. I wasn't responsible for everyone else's problems. I wasn't a villain for saying no. I built a new circle, friends who became family, people who accepted me as I was without demands. The road ahead. Now, years later, the harassment has mostly stopped. I'm still healing. The scars are there, in memories, in family photos I've hidden away. But I'm free. I live on my own terms. I've learned that sometimes, choosing yourself is the hardest and bravest thing you can do. Years under siege, living with the weight of family demands. Arrival in Maryland, a fresh start or a new prison. When I first arrived in Maryland, the contrast was overwhelming. The bustling streets, the cold breeze, the unfamiliar faces, all starkly different from the warm but suffocating atmosphere back in Arkansas. I remember standing on the balcony of my small apartment the night before my first day at work, feeling a strange mix of excitement and dread. For the first time in my life, I was away from the constant calls, the demands, the expectations. But freedom came with a price. The first warning signs, subtle, then aggressive. The first weeks were peaceful. I called my mom occasionally, just to check in. But soon, the tone changed. What started as casual questions became pointed demands. One day, I received a text from my cousin that read, "We're struggling here. You need to step up." Another time, a family friend I barely knew called my workplace. Trying to find my supervisor to talk about how I owed my family help. The harassment was subtle at first, disguised as concern. But beneath it was control. A reminder, no matter where I was still their person. The threats begin, crossing boundaries. The calls at night started. Unannounced visits to my apartment happened. One evening, I returned home to find my door slightly ajar. Nothing was stolen, but a note was left on the floor. "Come home. Don't make us come find you." Fear settled in. I was no longer safe, even miles away from Arkansas. Isolation and paranoia, the mental toll. The constant pressure began to wear me down. I stopped answering calls. I ignored texts. But then new numbers appeared, new voices demanding the same thing. I withdrew. Friends asked if I was okay, but I couldn't explain the fear and shame I felt. Every knock on the door made my heart race. Every message on my phone was a potential threat. Sleep was elusive. Anxiety became my constant companion. Moments of doubt, temptation to give in. There were moments when I considered going back. When the guilt, the loneliness, and the exhaustion pushed me to the edge. I thought about calling my mom, promising to help, to send money, to fix everything. But deep down, I knew that coming back meant losing myself again. Losing the freedom I had fought so hard to gain. Finding allies, therapy and friends. One day, a close friend noticed my struggle and urged me to seek help. Reluctantly, I began therapy. It was a turning point. For the first time, I understood that my family's demands were toxic, that my desire for independence was valid, and that setting boundaries was not betrayal. I built a support system, friends who stood by me, a therapist who listened, and a community that understood what it meant to escape toxic family ties. Legal protection, taking control. When threats escalated, I consulted a lawyer and obtained a restraining order against certain family members who crossed the line. It wasn't easy. The legal process was draining, and family drama intensified. But it was necessary for my safety and peace of mind. Healing and growth, the journey continues. Years have passed since those dark days. I've rebuilt my life, career, relationships, a sense of self that isn't tied to anyone's demands but my own. The scars remain, but they remind me of my strength. I still struggle with guilt sometimes, but I've learned that loving yourself is the foundation for any other kind of love. Reflections: what family means to me now. Family is complicated. Sometimes, it's the people you're born to, sometimes, it's the people who choose to stand by you. For me, family became the friends who never judged, the therapist who never gave up, and the communities who helped me find my voice. The weight of the past and the fight for tomorrow. The unexpected visit. It had been nearly 3 years since I last heard directly from my family. The harassment had mostly faded after the legal steps I took, but the scars they left were still raw. I thought I was finally free. Then, one rainy evening, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, standing there was my younger brother, the one I'd barely seen since moving. His eyes were tired, but there was something pleading in his voice. "I'm sorry. I needed to see you." It was the first real contact in years. A fragile bridge. We sat in my tiny living room, the silence between us heavy. He spoke about the struggles at home, how things had gotten worse after I left, how my mom was sick, how the family felt broken. He didn't come with demands or threats. Instead, he asked if I could help, just a little. I was torn. Could I trust him? Was this a step toward healing, or just a new form of pressure? Setting boundaries. I told him honestly what I needed. I want to help, but on my terms. I need respect and space. It was the first time I'd said those words so clearly. He nodded slowly. I get it. We've been wrong. Maybe this is the start of something different. The road to forgiveness. It won't be easy. I know there will be setbacks. There will be moments when old wounds reopen, when the past threatens to pull me back into the shadows. But for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope. Moving forward. I'm learning that healing isn't about forgetting or pretending everything's okay. It's about acknowledging the pain, setting limits, and finding new ways to connect. Maybe, someday, family will mean something new, not control, but choice. The struggle for independence. Even after years in Maryland, the shadow of my family's expectations still loomed over me. Each time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped a beat. Was it a call for help, or another demand disguised as concern? At work, I often found myself distracted, thinking about the threats and ultimatums I'd faced. Colleagues noticed my mood swings, but I couldn't bring myself to tell them the full story. How do you explain living under a cloud of fear that follows you across state lines? A new ally. One day, during a particularly tough week, I confided in a coworker, Lisa. She listened without judgment, offering support in ways I didn't know I needed. Lisa helped me find a therapist, someone who specialized in family trauma and boundary setting. The therapy sessions were difficult but transformative. I started to understand the complex dynamics that had kept me trapped: guilt, obligation, fear. Confronting the past. Therapy gave me the tools to face my family on my own terms. I wrote a letter to my mother, carefully choosing my words to express my feelings without blame. I told her about the pain caused by their relentless demands and how much I wanted to reconnect. But only if respect and boundaries were honored. Sending that letter felt like stepping off a cliff. Mixed responses. The responses were mixed. Some family members were angry, accusing me of betrayal. Others were silent. A few reached out with tentative hope. It was a mess, but it was real. For the first time, I was owning my story instead of hiding from it. Rebuilding relationships. Slowly, some relationships began to heal. I set clear boundaries, times when I was available to talk, limits on financial support, and most importantly, the demand for respect. It wasn't easy. Old habits die hard, and there were many setbacks. But with each step, I grew stronger. A new chapter. Today, I live a life defined by choice, not obligation. I've built a support system that values me for who I am, not what I can give. I still carry scars from the past, but they remind me of my strength and resilience.